Before we begin, just some thank yous real quick. Firstly to Nell and Keith and the rest of the staff here at the state headquarters, thank you very much for organizing this. I do appreciate it. I'm doing the thank yous in advance because I know some people have to leave early, and so I want to catch them. All those who have traveled interstate, so we've got some folks from the Northern Territory, those from regional South Australia, and just those that had to get up early this morning to drive here, so thank you for your time and your diligence. Those that had to take leave from work, we've got two people here, myself and Morphin Bell. So thank you for taking that time off from work. The Women's Auxiliary, thank you for the catering that we'll enjoy at lunch. And just a little bit of housekeeping beyond what Keith had to say, which is we've got Travis over here on my left to your right, who will be filming the entire forum. And if you don't wish to have your face be seen on the camera, just let us know, because this is going to go onto our Facebook page and distributed widely. And this is our hope to be transparent about what goes on here in the room. But if you have any privacy issues, just let us know as we continue through the morning and early afternoon. And thank you to Travis, Chris. Just to get stuck into it, because we're 3 minutes and 46 seconds after 10. Just quickly want to tell you, and you'll see it in the first agenda item, which is advocacy and welfare. So if you remember the last forum we had, I said we're going to do 3 things, we're going to do them really well this year. Advocacy and welfare was number 1 of those 3. All right? Just want to let you know how we've traveled in the last 3 to 4 months. So this is just the state headquarters, and not the great sub-branches out there doing advocacy and welfare on their own right. But in the last, since we last spoke, we've been able to close out close to 300 advocacy and welfare files. That's a fantastic accomplishment. And of those, 40 were VRBs. So well done to the advocacy and welfare staff and volunteers here at the state headquarters branch. And I also commend the other sub-branches out there that are also doing this great work. Currently, in the state headquarters, we are currently managing close to 400 advocacy and welfare files. That's a lot. It's a lot more than I thought we had. And it's being done basically by 1 full-time employee, who is Steve. Everybody probably knows Steve. We've got 1 person that's working one day a week. This is paid. And then we've got an admin assistant who we just brought on about 2 weeks ago for 20 hours a week. So this is what we should be focusing our time, energy, and finances on. And I think that we're starting to actually do what we tell people we do here at the state branch. But I also know that we are doing lots and lots of good work with advocacy and welfare at the sub-branch level. Because if you're not doing that, really, what are we doing? Like, honestly, that's our meat and potatoes. That's we put in business our unique selling proposition, because we've got competition out there right now in this space. But our USP, a unique selling proposition, is we do advocacy and welfare, and we do it better than anybody else. So thank you to the staff and to all the volunteers that are doing that. So moving on, one of the other top 3 things was governance. What do we call that? And so now I'm going to speak about the Memorial Hall Trust. And just a little bit of background for those that don't know about the trust. The trust was established when we sold our old headquarters. Gosh, 25 years ago? 20 years ago? Okay, put their feet up because they're going to be here a while. So the monies that came from the sale of that property, right? Under an act of Parliament here in South Australia, those monies were then put into a trust. The trust was managed, or the monies of that trust generally were managed through a finance committee, as well as Macquarie Bank, which for the majority of the time, Macquarie Bank has had that trust, or the monies in that trust, broken up into a cash account, as well as in shares. The cactus, or the cocus, excuse me, is generally thought to be at about $1.4 to $1.5 million. Only in the last 2 weeks have we been able to gain access to those accounts due to the administrator. And the reason that there was such a impetus to gain access to those accounts is because the Crown Solicitor is actually investigating the trust. Because The Crown Solicitor is the trustee of those finances. So wait for this one. So since 2014, about October, close to over $700,000 has gone out of that account and sometimes back into that account without the trustee knowing or without the trustee's approval. Wow. Check that one out. So if we ever thought that governance was important, it is dreadfully important. All right? The only people that had access to the Macquarie accounts and could do transactions were former board members. Not the CEO, not Jill, the finance clerk. It was the board members, of who I still don't know. Over $700,000. Now, has some of that money come back in? It sure has. Okay? So it's not a complete write-off. There's currently about $1.2 million in assets in the trust. All right? But if I take Jim's wallet without him knowing, and I pull 50 bucks out of it, take down the pokies, play the pokies for a couple hours, get my money back, plus 50, put 50 back into Jim's wallet, what have I done? I'm still taking money without his knowledge. So that's why that's important. So as we move forward through the year, we're going to be working with the Crown Solicitor's Office so that they can investigate this activity. Because obviously this is way beyond anything that this board should do. It's just that we need to tell the membership what your money has been doing since 2014. So there you go. Hey, I'm almost done. I've only been up here 10 minutes. EKO. I'm happy to take questions about that right now because we're well ahead of time. No questions? Good. All right. Hey,
sorry.
Yes, go ahead. Please state your name and subreg.
Yeah, Rod, your Victoria, subreg. Is it your intention to keep us informed as to the progress of this investigation?
As much as we can.
Yeah, as much as we can. I mean, there'll be some things, if it does take a very legal point of view, it'll obviously be something that we can't discuss, not because we don't want to, but just simply because we'll be hampered by the courts.
All I'm asking is just keep us informed of the progress, not that if it goes to legal, fine, whatever is the next logical step in this process, and you just keep sub-branches informed.
Absolutely. So the next logical sub-branch is the accounts, because we now have access to them. We've printed off the accounts and they're going to the Crown Solicitor, not today, tomorrow. So, and we can actually look even further back in 2014, but of relevance to us is those dates. Yes, Ray.
Ray Hardy, Renmark. One of my questions I asked for today was about the forensic audit. Was this come up as a matter of the forensic audit?
No, this has actually come up. Excuse me if I get the dates wrong, Ray, but I'd say for over a year the Crown Solicitor has been coming to the RSL State Branch and asking to see what is actually going on within the accounts. I think it actually began as a query because a new person came into the office, said, hey, we're the trustee of this. What's in it? We don't know, because the trustee doesn't have access to the accounts remarkably. And said, can you please tell me what's been going on with this account? Because I understand that right now you're taking about $5,000 a month out of the account, which they weren't too bothered about. There was no actual written agreement on what those monies were being spent on. And so the purpose of the trust, and I should have mentioned this before, is to provide Memorial Hall and associated offices in perpetuity for the RSL State Branch. So $5,000 a month. If you think about, we pay commercial rates for electricity here. We pay rent here as well. So take $5,000 a month over the course of 12 months. That generally pays our rent and our utilities, which is in keeping with the value of the aims of the trust. But when they would like to believe that in one case $433,000 in October of 2014 left the account, somebody's eyes went, really? Or a couple months later, a couple $100,000 left the account, and then came back into the account. They didn't have the fidelity that they required. And so that's when they came to, when the interim board was established, that's why they came to us and tried to, I guess, regenerate a relationship of openness and trust, which we did.
We still haven't seen the results of the forensic audit. What other dogs are tied up? How will we ever know what other dogs are tied up? How will we know what other problems there are without the results of a forensic audit?
You'll never see it. You'll never see it. You'll never see it.
We haven't seen it.
We have. Just.
No, that's my question. Why haven't we?
Because I believe some of the information contained in that forensic audit is it is terribly bound by legal aspects that I cannot even go into in this forum here. Not because I got a house and kids, and I don't get sued. To leave it at that. All right. Now, let's go to Tony Flaherty. All right. So, one of the questions asked by, I believe, Steve in the back was about the dockets. And we'll discuss that in more detail, Steve, after lunch. So, Tony Flaherty, the only elected board member, has put a claim against the dockets. I had a claim for $1 listed against the dockets because it's a legal case. So he's coming after the league for defamation, in essence. So we entered into mediation with him about 4 months ago, but found out quickly that we could not continue along the mediation because he was a creditor under the dockets. So it's a matter for the administrator. But now, he has actually gone to the administrators, and as I believe, has filed some papers. And so in essence, through a proxy, he is taking the lead to court. How does that affect the dockers? It's a very big unknown. What's it do from my point of view, from him being on the board? It means he continues to be deeply and utterly conflicted. So today we are sending him a letter asking him to resign due to his conflict of interest. It's a very unfortunate thing. I think the whole matter has not been handled in a great way, but in essence, his conflict, him wanting to take the lead to court through a proxy, is not something we can have from a board member. And if you remember, the thing that, and I quite like Tony, he's a very honorable guy most of the times, but I know. But if you remember, one of the things that the tribunal found was about his active service in the matter, right? And that was something that he had put on his bio that was truly, utterly incorrect. There were aspects of him being a platoon commander for A platoon, is that right? C company. C company. A platoon?
A platoon,
C company.
ARA.
Thank you. Oh. There you go, Steve. Which, to the best of our knowledge, is not true. So, we're going to ask him to resign, and hope that he resigns at his own accord.
If he doesn't,
We will take further action. Because literally, from an ACNC point of view, so this is somebody else on Bronson, he is utterly conflicted, and because of his ongoing confliction with the aims and the finances of the company, so this is official, and of the charity, he should not be a board member.
ACNC?
Sorry, the Australian Charities and Non-for-Profit Commission. So they're the people that, in many cases, determine whether or not we continue to hold our charitable status and our tax-deductible status. This is a really difficult one to do, particularly understanding that I was appointed by the administrators for 2 suits from Melbourne. I get it. But I also get the fact that there's a deep and utter conflict of interest. You have a comment?
Yeah, I do, Bronson. I'll just expand on that a little bit. When the ACNC came and visited us and discussed with us the role of, and who was on the board, Tony being the only elected member, at that particular time, until things sort of got in train, they asked him to take leave of the board, which Tony did. That leave was up until the end of February. And constitutionally now, with us being a board member, that he can't, the only way we can ask him to leave the board is if he missed 3 meetings. But he hasn't missed 3 meetings because he's been on leave, as per what the ACNC said. So because of this new situation that's arisen, now the ACNC are on our side that he is completely in conflict, and we had intended, prior to this knowledge with the Dockers and what he's doing against the Dockers, we had intended to write to him, because we have it minuted from our previous board meeting 2 meetings ago, that we would write to him at the end of February to ask him to resign from the board. But now that it's become what he's done under the Dockers and it's become very conflicted, we are going to, and the ACNC is coming on to it with us and agreed, and that he is very conflicted, we have to ask him to resign from the board. So we don't know what the outcome is going to happen with that. So that's why he has remained on the board. We have followed the advice of the ACNC into how we should go about this and properly do it. So he's actually only been to 2 board meetings, I think, maybe 3, Bronson, out of this whole time since we've had it, since he was elected, and we've had an interim board. I think he's been to 1 interim board meeting, and then that's when the ACNC asked him to consider taking leave until it was sorted out or the process commenced on what he was doing. So that's where we're at the moment. So that's the action we're going to take.
Will the ACNC assist you if he becomes difficult about resigning or whatever, or is that totally, have they sort of handled it totally your
well, I don't think that they'll actually handball it. Well, they'll handball it, but they'll be there for guidance if...
Yeah, I'm just worried about your support. That's
they may not do what they've done with the other 3.
Yeah.
And so we'll lose that charitable status.
Well, that's the thing. They would...
Sorry.
Yeah, go on.
What Kim just said was that they'll do what they may have done in the past and just say, hey, you'll lose your charitable status if this person doesn't leave the board.
Gosh.
So the same, you know,
Yeah,
we go through the ball again.
But so, I mean, this is a very difficult thing for you to have to do with. This person, it becomes really difficult, says, well, I'm not resigning. My question is, what support do you people have to assist that to happen rather than lose that? That's a big
can't afford it.
It's not there.
No, we can't afford to do that.
All we need to do is 30 days notice of a special annual sub-branch or special sub-branch conference and that motion to remove him from the board.
Yeah, that's the nuclear option.
Okay.
That's the one we don't really want to go.
Because that's
Yeah, but if you don't have a choice.
Yeah.
If we don't have a choice, that's how we have to do it.
Any other questions? All right.
Excuse me, Bronson.
Yeah.
What's the history of this man?
No, don't go
Very quickly.
I'll take advice from Ray and keep very, very close. Once again, I've got a house and 3 kids, and I've got to look after those interests because the background is that I don't want to go to court.
It's sub judice, and now they were in court on Tuesday.
Yeah,
very
So
dangerous.
it can't be discussed.
Yep. Administrator's report, next on the agenda. So I received on the 12th of February 2018 a letter from the administrator, Roger Reed, outlining how we're going along with the dockets. All right. I'll make this available to anybody that cares to. You can have a read through it. It's their letter to me. So there's nothing secret or confidential in it. It kind of outlines where we stand with regards to it. In essence, the bottom line is that we paid out a significant amount of money thanks to the sale of the Linden Park asset. Thanks to the RSL Association for buying. That's allowed us to pay out all of our staff, former staff entitlements, which is, I have to say, a big desire of mine to get that across the line. And some of our other creditors have been paid. Now, there is an issue with the sale of the Victor Harbour land. It's just not, it's not moving. I don't think that the administrators in the Victor Harbour sub-branch have been, not due to the Victor Harbour sub-branch, I can tell you that, have been communicating on possibly selling both blocks of land together. I think that's unfortunate. I also think that there's unfortunately, I don't think the price point is exactly where the market wants it to be, or where we want it to be. But in essence, they're still trying to work through that. There's some other assets they're still trying to be sold that haven't moved. And the end result of a lot of that is that there'll most likely be another creditors meeting to outline how we can either extend the doctors or look at different methods or items to sell in order to do the doctors. It's unfortunate, but I would say that it's not been agreement. The biggest impulse right now on the doctors moving forward successfully is Tony Ferry. That's the only reason why there's a bit of doubt within that government. And that's why they called me on the 11th of February to kind of let me know why they weren't as comfortable as they were 6 months ago. All right? Like I said, happy for anybody to have a copy of this. We can run, I didn't want to run 60 copies, I'm not sure if anybody wanted it, but happy to give it to you privately.
Alan Turner, Broken Hill sub-branch. You should have all received it by snail mail, because we got ours last week.
Okay.
Full report.
Cool. Questions in the back? Questions in the back? Yep.
Gary Sherry Fairley, can we get that email out to the sub-branches?
Yeah, do that. No? Anybody else? All right, here's some happy news. I sit on what they call the Veterans Advisory Council, which is under Veterans SA. And one of the topics, one of the major topics that we've been discussing over the last year has been the availability of childcare for families posting into the RAF base Edinburgh, as well as veterans within the northern suburbs. A little bit more to do with the current serving members, but it really becomes an issue if you get a posting order in July and you've got young kids and already you're on the back foot with regards to wait lists for childcare. And that is a serious impulse. When I moved here, when my wife and I were posted here, thank God we had my in-laws, because we could not find childcare for months. And when we finally got childcare, it was Monday at a place in Goodwood, and Tuesday at Sturt Street, Wednesday was Granny and Oakhall, Thursday and Friday I was taking the day off. It was really untidy. So if you can imagine you're a single parent with 2 kids under 7 years old, and you get posted to the RAF base, you're already on the back foot, and you don't have family here, and quite possibly don't have family here, it makes life really, really difficult. And so one of the things that we've been discussing at the Veterans Advisory Council and with the board is how could we do something in this space? And how could we do it well? Well, guess what? We're not into childcare, right? Not at all. Don't know the first thing about it. Just like we don't know about pubs, but we know a lot more about pubs now. So the idea has come to this, and letters have gone to the state government, both in the opposition, and letters have gone to the Commonwealth as well, that the state government and or the Commonwealth will give the RSL on a peppercorn lease 3 acres of land, no further away than 1,500 meters from the front gate of the RAF base. Montessori, which is a child care provider, so Academia Montessori is the name of the provider, have agreed to pay to have the thing built, and they will run it. So we're not spending the money, all right? It's going to be branded at this stage, RSL Little Diggers Long Stay Childcare. And the reason that we're getting into this is because, well, one, we hope to get $2 to $3 per child per day based on 80 students. And why did I come up with that number? because that's the fully burdened rate for a level 4 advocate. That's what we're going to get out of it. That's why we're going to do this from a financial point of view. The other reason we're doing it, or we want to do it, is because we believe that, or we know that we are going to put caveats on the use of our name against the child care provider. The first caveat is that there's a priority placement for all uniformed service members. The second priority are veterans. The third priority are defense contractors or defense employees. And so what we're doing, in essence, is we're providing a service to the veteran and current serving community that is desperately needed. We're not spending our money on it. We're imposing KPIs on a professional mob that have been doing this for 40 years and have 5 schools already in the Adelaide area. We're going to gain some money from it, pay for an advocate. So this is going to be probably a year to 18 months until this thing comes off. I will keep you informed as we move forward with it. But really it's a model that I came up with because I happen to realize that Chief of Air Force, so think about all the Air Force bases, except for the RAF base here, they all had child care centers on them. They all do now, right? Within 12 months, none of them will have child care centers. And the reason for that is that the security risk is far too high for Chief of Air Force to have 3-year-old kids on an Air Force establishment when a vehicle-borne explosive device goes off in the front gate. So if anybody knows about the security arrangements, we go from safe base Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta, and Echo. All right? Charlie is where we're at now, which is an attack as expected. Right? We go to Delta on any of the Air Force bases or any establishment in Australia. All non-essential personnel are removed from the camp, the barracks, the RAF base. And so all of a sudden, there is no child care for somebody that now has to actually get onto the flight line to service the P3. And now they're staying at home, looking after the child, and defense's capability goes like that. And, you know, it's something that we can fix. So if you think about the pilot program here in South Australia, sticking one outside the RAF base, branded RSL with RSL aims and objectives attached to it, think about that at the other 9 Air Force bases, I think, around Australia. And building on a model where we're not paying anything for it. So, happy to take any questions about it.
Way late for teacher darling. How many positions?
Good point. Sorry. So right now, in order to break even, the magic number is 80 students, 5 days a week. That's where the child care provider actually starts turning a decent amount of coin. The reason they want 3 acres is because they want 180 students, and 180 students, they are super profitable. The other thing I failed to mention, sorry about that, was that the child care provider, so Academia Montessori, has promised to provide 60 new jobs, all in the northern suburbs, which desperately needed, and that they'll give priority placement for new employees to veterans or partners of current serving members. So I think that's a great thing. So, any other questions? Yes?
I'm Bronson Taylor, will stand out well down you, because having been somebody who's been through the service, we can.
Thank you. Anybody else? So imagine we've got 9 of these around the country. We're making about 90 grand a year. And we're doing something good for the community. It's like having a pub and a club that's actually not selling alcohol and gambling. It's actually selling care to children. So we can all sleep well at night. And I think that's a good thing. Okay, upcoming elections. Any more questions about childcare? Cool. As stated the last time we met, I think the March, the next month, March, the call for nominations will go out.
Yeah.
Call for nominations will go out. Please nominate. Like I said the last time we met, You don't need 4 people putting their hands up for positions. You need 10 or 15 so we get a good pool of people that want to do this job for the right reasons. Because they want to serve the league, they want to serve their fellow veterans and fellow Australians. So please, if you think you got it in you, please nominate. The other thing I'll say about the elections, and when you think about nominating, or if you go back to your sub-branch and ask people to nominate, is that this is a membership-based organization whose board members are elected by the membership. And in some cases, that's a fantastic egalitarian outcome. But from ACNC's point of view, it can lead to absolute, utter disaster. Because it can be a popularity contest to see who gets voted in. And what that means is you might get somebody as dumb as a bag of rocks like me as a board member next year because I'm popular. Not that I am popular, but what we need people to do is to consider what it actually takes in this modern era to run a charity and what skill sets they require. You need to understand the legalities of being a fit and proper person and to being a responsible entity. And when I mentioned it earlier, Ray, my house is on the line if this place goes into dirt. And just understanding that shapes your decision-making process as a board member. And I don't think that many charitable boards understand that. You can look at New South Wales and look at what their board did, not understanding that they have responsibilities under the Corporations Act. So when you're thinking about nominating, or if you have a committee member who is eligible to nominate, and you go, that person's a bright spark, that person understands governance and compliance, that person's a jet at ACNC things, may not be the most popular person in the sub-branch, but that person might be a very good board member, and you need to push that person into nominating. And then assist him through the election process if required. So, like I said, elections will be determined at the next AGM in July. All of the board members that are currently in the interim board will either stand or not stand to be elected, but our term will not just automatically go over. Any questions?
Sorry.
Yep.
My name's Teacher Gully. When you call for nominations, it's probably important that you stress what you've just said. So that when that comes, we can make a uniform decision on the nomination that we're actually looking at. And make those that we're nominating aware that they are responsible people. You can do that?
Yeah, that's a very good point. Because I think it is often lost on people that are elected to charitable boards and non-for-profits and those kind of things. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, Murray, regional coordinator. I believe that the current board members have received training with regards to directors training. Will this be mandatory for all new board members?
As much as we can make it mandatory, it will be. There are some. It's difficult for me to look at you and compel you to do something if it's not actually in the bylaws of the Constitution. It's easier for us to go. ACNC believes you haven't attended one webinar this entire financial year. Please show cause, or you're still able to be on the list. Because what we do currently, and what we've done in the past, I've actually done one a couple of months ago, is we sign into the ACNC web portal, and we go to make a series of webinars. Some that are pre-taped, you can just listen to in the background. Others are actually interactive, and they provide a great deal of learning. Past, what we really want to do is send everybody on the board to the 5-day Australian Company Directors Institute. The issue with that is if we sent the entire board right now, it costs us about $70,000, and it's just money we don't have. So,
unless, of course, the sub-branches would like to contribute.
Yeah, unless the sub-branches would. But thank you.
Yes, can I make a suggestion?
Absolutely.
You look at the application presented here, we're all over 60. What I suggest we do, instead of keeping it to a forum like this, we actually put it in the paper at the Signal and let the younger members know. Some of them might be more interested and capable.
Fair point. I think we put it on the Signal and put it on Facebook. There still is a requirement, as I understand, that you need to have had a committee position or held a committee position for 2 years.
2 years.
2 years. And so that might hamper some of the younger folks, but absolutely I agree with your, let's not just keep it to the direct mail out to the sub-branch presidents, let's actually put it in the signal, let's put it on Facebook, let's get it out there. Question in the back, sorry?
In RSL, also put out to the associations. Now there's, for instance, I'm RAE, I'm Vice President of RAE in South Australia. Put it out to the artillery, the infantry, and all the other corps and all the other parts of the Air Force and Navy, the different ships crews, so that they all know. From that, we should get a very decent qualified board, and as you suggested there, sir, definitely younger people.
Yep.
I'm 60, and you're right on. I'm just having recovered from stage 4 cancer. Okay? 4 years ago I was given 2 months to live. I'm still here. And my determination to the job is to alive. The thing is, there's probably young people out there that we create a positive environment for them. We will definitely get people we need, because look at us. It's dead right. Our future is the young people, and they're not coming here. They're not doing joining the RSL in droves. We need them. So create an opportunity for them, and they'll come.
I think the opportunity, giving somebody of a younger ilk the ability to contribute and to lead and target those people is probably a very good way to go. Now remember, we can still appoint, I think, 2 people to the board. And definitely we'll look at that as maybe not a discriminator, but as something to look at. Sorry, I was going to get to Dawn had a question earlier.
Don Belford on from Darwin. Will the Northern Territory have its own position on the board?
Good question. So it should, and we're working through a new constitution that will allow for, like we have a regional seat currently, like have a seat in the Northern Territory. So whoever in the Northern Territory nominates for that, and they get voted in, that's the seat that they take. Because I don't think it's unquestioned, it's completely unfair, not, in my opinion, not to allow the Northern Territory to have a say at the table, but equally, it's very difficult for somebody like Don or Bob or the guys and women up in the Northern Territory to get out to the sub-branches and make their point on why they should be a board member, because it is the tyranny of distance when it comes to campaigning for an election. So yes.
Warren Mellon, Northfield RSL, one of the younger guys that you got here, what everybody's looking for. Probably got at the moment, I spent quite a bit of time out at the Ward 17, Tony Larkin's and I hear it all the time from young veterans, is that they don't feel welcome in RSLs. Like when they walk in there, nobody says hello to them, they just sort of let go and do their own devices and all the bits and pieces. That's a fairly common thing. So one of the things that, the older folks should be looking at, and this is just my personal opinion, is maybe looking at your succession plan, and then when those guys walk in the door, shake their hand, ask them where they've been, and see what they want to do. Most of these young guys are willing to put their arse on the line and do a whole lot of stuff that the older folk would struggle with. They don't want to be cleaning gutters though, or painting walls or any of that stuff. They want to do organisation things. They want to help us get the membership back up and running. But what we've found at Northfield is even we struggle getting younger veterans, and we're all younger veterans pretty much. I think our oldest member's 98 and he doesn't show up. So, he's too busy at home. We even struggle, yet we've got a really good platform for what we're doing. We do a lot of different stuff. The thing is, just the younger guys don't want to come and drink piss anymore. They want to have their families involved, they want their kids there. The kids have got to be able to run around and cut sick and have fun like the kids do. And unfortunately, the older generation don't necessarily want that. So they're just some of the reasons why the younger generation aren't coming. Just as a basic start. A lot of the RSLs aren't really set up for kids. And that's really the thing. Younger veterans now, families, everything. They spend so much time away on deployments and away on exercise. The last thing they want to be doing is spending a night down the RSL with their mates and then going home to their missus carrying on about, not being home. And I know what that's like. So they're just some of the things that need to be done. The succession plan should have started 10 years ago. Unfortunately, we've got to get it up and running.
Thank you. So any other questions about the upcoming elections? No? Cool. All right. Best funding. We've had some issues with that. I may have communicated with you, I think, in my last president's message. I'll talk about also funding for Anzac Day as well. So we have a lot of money from the Commonwealth and a lot of money from the state. State government is normally meant for commemorations, and we normally get about $100,000 per year from the state. We get a sum of money from the Commonwealth for advocacy and welfare and those type of activities. Unfortunately, when we've gone forward to get best funding, so Commonwealth money, we haven't in the past appropriately acquitted the monies in which they have given us. And so we're still going through the acquittal process now. We're in conversations with the Department of Veterans Affairs. They're happy with the way that we're going. It's just very difficult to go back and acquit what the monies were spent on, because in many cases the money weren't actually spent on advocacy and welfare. They were spent on other stuff that doesn't go to the heart of what the money was used for. If we come over here to the state money, so this is money that flows from Veterans SA as well as the Premier and Cabinet. So 75,000 comes through Veterans SA, and another 25,000 comes from the Premier's office directly. Last year, we didn't acquit it as well as we should have, and particularly, I think we're about $25,000 in the hole that we can't acquit the money back to its original aims and objectives, which was for commemoration, whether that be Anzac Day, or Remembrance Day, or Long Tan Day, or whatever commemoration we asked the money for. We just simply have not acquitted it against what we said we were going to do with it last year. And so I think Sam is going to run a letter up to the top of the hill to Veterans SA here at lunch, and hopefully what that will do is tell the state government that, hey, we couldn't acquit for the 25 grand, we're sorry, mea culpa. And with an arrangement with the state government that as soon as we give them that letter, that they're going to give us $100,000 we need for this year's commemoration, because we don't have enough money to run Anzac Day as it stands right now, in the way that we want to run. But we're very happy with the negotiations we've had with the state government for that. And we're very happy with the way that we're negotiating with the Department of Veterans Affairs for best funding. But just bear with us a little while. The tracking down of the monies that were spent last year has proven to be much more difficult than we thought. And it's just a matter of working through it. And a lot of that isn't the former board, it's just the fact that might be the former board a little bit, but also we only got access to our accounts, our banking accounts, full access, I think about, is that 3 weeks ago, Sam? CDA?
CDA?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Macquarie was only
last week. So we're just getting a hold of access, we're just getting access to these accounts, and so that's one of the reasons it's been delayed. I mean, 3 weeks ago I was signing checks for employees' salary, because we didn't have the ability to actually electronic transfer. Just shows you kind of how we've been going along. So I was going to speak about new staff and advocacy, but I think I've already spoken about that. One of the last things that I think I should mention to the group is the virtual war memorial. And I just wanted, because I'm sure that there's been some conversations around what might be going on. Has anybody heard any of the rumblings about the virtual war memorial? So the virtual war memorial, the RSL virtual war memorial started, Steve's in the back, to correct the record, was started by the RSL in conjunction with the state government, what, 6 years ago? 2012. 2012. And it was supposed to be a last contributed gift to the people of South Australia. And what the virtual war memorial does, in essence, is it catalogs and commemorates people that have served. Unlike the Roll of Honor, you don't have to have been killed in action to be in the virtual war world. So it can be Alona Haran served 2 trips to East Timor, did a trip to Iraq, was the OC of whatever, all left, right? And there's a picture of her in East Timor. And it's there for as long as the website's up, which is probably for a very, very long time. But it's also a mechanism, not just to commemorate, but to teach students what they, about World War I and World War II. And so the Department of Education has pumped in quite a significant amount of money into the virtual war memorial. So what's come about, basically, since last year, particularly because of administration, is that the state government, who's the primary funding source for the virtual war memorial. Granted, the RSL has put in somewhere in the order of $330,000 into it. The state government is the primary sponsor for the activity. The state government, rightfully, in my case, had to have a security or risk management method of how they're going to continue to fund the virtual war memorial moving forward. Because they just weren't confident, just like the money for commemorations they gave us last year, we can't find 25 grand of it. They were not confident that the monies they put into the virtual war memorial through the RSL state branch would actually get to the virtual war memorial. And so what they wanted and what they desired was a mechanism to ensure that RSL didn't have that type of fiduciary responsibility or input into the virtual war memorial moving forward. And so we've been in negotiations with the CEO and the chairman of the virtual war memorial, and we've come to an interim arrangement which still needs to be fleshed out, but in essence, we're going to let them kind of secede away a bit, not completely. There'll be some licensing arrangements and if they make a gross surplus for the year, then we might get a piece of that. Because we can't just give it away, because then you guys are stringing up outside. I get that. But also, we have put $330,000 into it, and somehow we need to get compensated for it. But if we go back to the original aims and objectives, it is to give a lasting gift to the people of South Australia. So we've actually accomplished our mission already. The other thing that we're going to ask them to do is to not use the word or the RSL brand on it. And the reason for that, in our thinking, is that we cannot have an entity moving around in a commemorative space, which is the same space that we operate in, wearing the RSL badge and looking like the RSL, then there's very little control that we can have over it. So it's very similar to the RSL moving around in South Australia, raising money for veterans. Probably to pay for the president's fleet of vehicles, no doubt. Yeah, so he doesn't like me anyways. So we just couldn't have an RSL virtual war memorial that was not fully and utterly controlled by the RSL moving around in this space. Likewise, we couldn't see it be insolvent and drop off the perch, and the only reason to keep that going was basically through state government money. And the state government was going to give us money unless we gave them a greater sense of autonomy. So Friday last week, Kim and I had a discussion with Veterans SA as the mediator, as well as the chairman and the CEO of the virtual war memorial. And I think we've come to a decent agreement that we're going to work through over the next month. Any questions about the virtual war memorial? Once again, a fantastic product, fantastic service, something we are happy for the people of South Australia to have access to, but we can't fund it to the mechanism that we keep funding. Yes?
Dennis Olmo from Macclesfield RSL. We're pretty much connected with the virtual memorial. To say that you don't want to have it intrinsically linked to the RSL because of the logo and what could go wrong, to do that on the method that RSL couldn't square its books away for the last few years, and so another entity might not be able to square its books away and it'll look bad for you when it's already looking bad for you because you can't acquit your own stuff. And then to sort of pair it up with RSL art, that's a bit of a stretch. Yeah. Surely for it to go forward and to be a viable option to have it linked to the RSL also gives it credibility and helps it to prosper.
Issue about the private owners.
Sorry?
Issue about the private owners, not wanting giving money to the RSL.
That's the thing, right? I think, just one second, Steve. One of the issues really is who funds it? State government funds it. State government doesn't want to fund it to the RSL. I personally don't want to see another RSL branded activity or charity or sub-branch go down the road because they don't have the money. I mean, to me, that's the simplest way of saying it. We don't want the RSL virtual war memorial to be insolvent. The main way that we can prevent that from happening is allowing the state government to fund it. And the only way they'll fund it is if we succeed some control of that. Yes, Steve?
Just to elaborate a little bit, so you'll understand, the RSL Virtual War Memorial was a tag that was attached because the RSL and the local Women's Auxiliary were the initial back. There's a problem though, if it tries to operate interstate, because neither it nor the state branch own the trademark. It's owned by National. And the RSL Virtual War Memorial had to pay 23 grand for the right to use it. But it's a problem interstate because we never got support from any of the other state branches. So, and if you're trying to raise money in New South Wales right now and you've got the RSL name attached, it's not easy. So, this is not a bad accommodation.
Who administers it? Who runs it, who administers it, who controls it?
So who runs it right now is Sharon Roberts, who's the CEO. She's got 2 volunteers. So to call it a CEO as such is a bit rich, but at the same token, that's the title she's given. She is employed by the Virtual War Memorial, which is its own entity. The board, as it currently stands, is appointed by us. So we have the ability to appoint members onto the board of the Virtual War Memorial as we see fit. So currently, there is one person on their board, which is the chairman. And is that right, Steve? There's only one. And yes, we can control the whole thing if we want. But our thought process, one of the options that we did give them, to be quite frank in the negotiations, was we will appoint our board to your board. Bronson will become the chairman of the Virtual War Memorial, and then we'll start speaking to the state government for money. We could have done that. That is the nuclear option. That would not be the best, might not provide the best outcome. And in essence, once again, the RSL state branch would assume financial liability for an entity that we know very little about. And up until, if we assume the board, we would have no control over it. Does that answer your question?
Okay, so what I understand is at the moment the RSL administers it, controls it. You're saying that you want to get the RSL out of it. Who will then take it over? Is there somebody ready to take it over?
They will assume, they are already in control. We can step into it if we want, through appointing members of the board, and we can step out of it. Okay. So they are their own incorporated body. The only way that we can control that entity is by placing appointing board members onto their board. But if we did that, this was one of the things that we saw. If we did that, the state government would pull funding, and it would become insolvent. And then we have it.
So you want to hand it back to the state government? Is that what I understand?
No.
I'm missing something.
Sorry. It's funded by the state government, but it's got its own board.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Yep.
Thank you. Sorry about that. Anybody else?
Is it possible to have somebody from sub-branches go onto the board to be the caretakers of it? Is that something you can appoint? But if you appoint that, is that going to be a problem?
I'll tell you, I'm not trying to just take this anchor off my neck so I can go, run up the hill and get coffee. It really is. We've been working with these people for about 6 months. It's a very complicated issue. I'm happy to discuss as much as I know about it, but what I have found is that none of us are suitable or capable to look after an IT platform as complicated as that. It is broke. It is weeks away from being installed. And the state government is quite happy to fund it as long as we don't appoint members to the board. Does that make sense?
Bronson, I think
Steve had his hand back there.
Just to explain, it's incorporated nationally. It's incorporated as a company limited by guarantee, which is a national mechanism. And the reason for that is if it's going to grow, 70% of the traffic comes from people outside South Australia. But we've never had the resources to actually, it's a very comprehensive record of South Australian service, less so from people who enlisted in other states. So it's set up under a national incorporation as opposed to most of our sub-branches and the RSL itself, which is set up under the South Australian Incorporations Act. It's got a board, or it will have, and will have exactly the same method of operation as any other organisation thus governed.
I think the bottom line is it's not our core business. No.
I think there's a bit of it is the commemorative site, and that is one of the things that we do, but it is so different from the way that we normally do commemorations that it's a fantastic site, but it's something we don't just know. It's something we don't have the skill sets to know.
Is it also the fact that the other states got to get a bit of a free ride on this deal? We may have to finish something back with the
That's exactly right. Yeah, I agree completely.
So why aren't we doing a deal with our union and saying we'll fund this?
I'm not thinking that's a bad idea, but the time critical nature really is they've got $10,000 in the bank, they owe $5,000 to VAT, and they have to pay their staff, and they have to pay their staff next week. So we're going to have a licensing fee, which is going to be quite robust. We'll still have a member on the board so they can check their finances, as well as if they have a gross surplus, which is not a profit as such because they're not for profit, then we'll get a portion of that.
Just one last thing on that. I think the problem we've got here is that a lot of people don't fully understand the power of the website and the fact that not everybody nowadays actually commemorates by going to a service or something. So to sort of think that this is an RSL related is sort of a little bit wrong, because it is. This is whatever we do.
I'll be honest with you, one of my main issues, and then we'll move on to one of my main issues with the RSL Virtual War Memorial being its own entity, not fully controlled by us, was that they were going to compete with us. And they weren't going to give anything back to us, which is very, very interesting from a business point of view. But we still saw the value of what it does for South Australians and all Australians in general. So how do we denude that competitive advantage they might have in the cyber world? And the way that we denude that without killing them and sending them into receivership is we charge them a licensing fee because we own the IP, so we're going to license them the IP. And we're going to ask for a percentage of their gross surplus moving forward. So they might compete, but the better they do, the better we do. So, happy to take any more questions about the Virtual War Memorial at lunch, but I think we need to move on to the next thing. Cool. So I think the next one is Trevor.
Me, mate. Thank you, Bronson. The Avoca. Before I mention that, I think one thing Bronson didn't mention when we were talking about elections is you need to warn anyone that's put their hand up. It's a significant time commitment. Anything between computers and meetings and other things, if you're not prepared to give up around 2.5 days a week, you better reassess. And that's on a low side. On a good week. Some weeks it's every day. To the Avoca, I'll just go back through a bit of history because I'm not sure everyone is fully aware, and there are probably some numbers in here that will shock people. Another thing Bronson said, I've never thought so many times about what I say, thinking of my house, my family and my super. And I do that regularly now, I never did it before. Back in in late 2014 when the Avoca lease was being bought by RSL. For those that don't recall, it was funded by a $1.5 million loan from Bank SA and a $3.5 million loan from RSL entities, a total of $5 million. The Bank SA loan today is down to a little bit below 1.2 million. The RSL loan remains at 3.5, partly because the Bank SA does not allow us to wind that down. People have asked a few times, and we've got reasonably accurate numbers now, how much has the Avoca contributed to RSL? Well, I can't tell you exactly what it was spent for. In 2015, a little over $700,000 was paid by the Avoca to the RSL. In 2018, $487,000. In 2017, prior to the administrator being appointed, about $93,000, and a very similar amount went to the administrators until those payments were stopped in June last year. So if you add it to the MHT numbers that Bronson mentioned, we're talking about a significant amount of money. The reality is we don't have anything really to show for that other than our debt and administrators. You can speculate forever where that money was spent, but it probably kept the RSL going longer than it did before the April 2017 outcome. The reality of the Avoca, even if we wanted to sell it, nobody's buying hotels at the moment, particularly with the election going on, but there are a number of hotels on for sale, and there are no buyers, or buyers only prepared to pay a very low amount of money. We certainly wouldn't pay off the $3.5 million loan to the RSL. The board, back to the work, putting in a lot of time. Two people, there's four of us on the board at the moment. There is the ability to put another RSL board member on, but until we get a full board, it's a bit of a stretch for our workload. The current board is Rob Gillies. Some of you may know Rob, but he's out of the hotel in the Camel bottle shop arrangement and puts in a lot of work. The other member that's here is Steve Larkins, who also puts in a significant amount of work for the Avoca, and then Cheryl Cates and myself. Families are engaged with our accounting firm. No, they're not on the board as happened in the past. They are a separate entity supporting us. The bonus of them is they have a strong list of hotel clients and are able to share with us, although not specific numbers, but certainly percentages, and compare where our business is at. For 2018, we've set a budget, touch conservative, but it needs to be given some of the other things I'll talk about. But one thing being allowed in there is a $10,000 a month payment to resume paying back to the RSL. If we make more money, it can't go above $24,000 because of the issues in 2017. The bank loan has a caveat on it that we are not allowed to pay more than $24,000 a month to the RSL until their loan is gone. We have also allowed, hopefully with the budgeting, some payment down to that loan. If it goes to plan, the Bank SA loan could be down around $1 million by the end of the year. Overall, the hotel game is tough, and the Avoca's probably, for a whole range of reasons, some related to the RSL, has probably suffered more than most for many reasons. An aspect that's likely part of that is the rundown of the facilities, and that's one of the key issues facing us at the moment, improving the decor, fixing up a few issues around the hotel, and again, the money drain and trading issues. Late 2017, I guess when we first heard it, it was a bit of a problem for us, but it's probably turned out to be a blessing in that we've moved on and we're making some changes. The GM resigned and left at the end of the year, and in mid-January we appointed Ben White. Some of you down the south might have been to the Verve at Marion. He took that over and turned it into a profitable business, and very unusual in that environment. When he sold it, he actually made a profit, apart from the money he put aside during his time being there. So there's a big stroke focus on food and beverage, a little less on the gaming side, but he's come out of a gaming environment in the hotel. Certainly it's challenging us and trying to do things. Key aspects are sprucing the place up, a bit of new furniture, addressing layout issues, some of them safety related, and just general decor around the premises. Ultimately, new menus, the head cook didn't like his changes, so he's moved on, and I think that'll probably be a blessing. But the ultimate aim is to reduce costs, introduce some new technology, and the ultimate aim, which we have to get to fairly quickly, is obviously improve revenue. January was better than 17 in the sense that we made a slight profit, and February looks to be heading the same way, although it's a bit early to see those firm numbers. Key focus of the board, and it's been that way, as Steve more than anyone knows, since early part of last year, is maintaining sufficient cash in the bank to maintain our business. Cash flow has been tight since then and remains so now. We don't want another RSL entity going into liquidation, and as I said before, it would be either a fire sale or boarding the hotel up if it did happen. The key focus out of all of those, and Ben's got a big focus on it, is about getting that revenue up. We agree with him that we need to spend some money. We're trying to do that without affecting the cash flow, but it's a key focus of getting it back on track. Going forward, those visiting the Avoca, we haven't strictly driven this. Ben's taken a few initiatives himself. You'll see just a little subtle increase in RSL focus, etc. The next time past, we'll see a couple of flagpoles up in the car park. The Australian flag and the RSL flag will be there. Those service groups that already meet there regularly will get the opportunity to put a plaque in that same area, mounted just to recognise their group that meets regularly at the Avoca. And Ben's identified a few places that used to be used for wine storage, but we're going to try and move a little bit of memorabilia into there as well, so there'll be an increased just recognition of the RSL into the place. I think in closing, it's going to require careful management through the middle part of this year, and then hopefully we'll start to see the benefits of the work that's being done. The board, with Ben's enthusiasm, I'm pretty sure we can achieve it, but it's not going to be easy. That really is the situation for the Avoca. Happy to take a question or two, but don't ask me where that money was spent. Anyone got a question or two on the Avoca? If I've covered it all, I'll read the question. Yes?
Trevor, I thought it might just be worth mentioning to the members that we also had a drama with a certain large bank, and that's still unresolved.
Oh yes, for those that, I think a couple of you might be aware, but Steve more than anyone and the rest of us since, halfway through the period of administration, the bank for the RSL and the Avoca, the Commonwealth decided to close the account, shut down the accounts for the Avoca, even though the Avoca was not in administration. It caused significant heartache to the hotel, and as part of the issues I referred to before that have probably hurt our trade, we lost a heap of staff, we couldn't pay them. Through Steve and Rob Gillies and a few other people and the general manager at the time, they managed to get around it eventually, but it left a legacy that's unfortunate. The flow-on legacy is that we've been to the Commonwealth Bank and tried to, or to the Bank Ombudsman and to the Commonwealth Bank, and basically got kicked out the door by the Commonwealth Bank when we tried to claim the loss of staff, the payouts we had to do, and the loss of trade. Since then, we're not banking at the Avoca with Commonwealth anymore.
You just might let them know also a lot of the downfall of the Avoca is the road works on South Road and stuff like that, Trevor. That's
yeah, back early last year there was obviously the South Road bicycle bridge closure of South Road. That certainly ended the place, and then it obviously then led into all the RSL issues, and you know, it's hard to pin down exactly which did what, but effectively it all affected it, and we're still trying to work our way out. The other thing, as I said before, we were trying to work our way out is that drain on cash has left us cash light and probably not enough ongoing maintenance, replacing chairs, keeping the place up to scratch, and certainly Ben's working very hard at that. And Steve and Cheryl will test, we just have to be a little careful that he doesn't spend it too quick, but we're finding ways to manage that and at the same time achieve the outcome we wanted for. He definitely we brought him in as a change agent, and he's definitely demonstrating that to us. Yeah, Jimmy, you have something?
Can you also explain to them about the gambling thing about they do on phones and that as well?
Oh yeah, Jimmy just asked about gambling. People talk about whether you like it or not. Hotels with poker machines, a fair bit of your cream on the money is the gambling side. That's one of the reasons hotels are not selling now with the reduction in betting. But the reality is today, it's probably not for most of there are a couple of younger blokes here, the reality from gambling today is that the average age of people playing pokies is nearly the same as the average age of the RSL, in the mid to late 60s. But you go to the hotel like the Oak or any of the others, and if you watch closely, the younger ones are still gambling plenty. They're just using their phones and betting with overseas betting agencies and still doing their betting. But it's affecting pokies in that sense, and whether the government likes it or not, it's probably affecting their tax revenue. If there's no more, your turn, Bronson, again. Cheryl's turn. Can you get up here, Cheryl, with your hand? Peter and I'll carry you up if you have to.
No, okay, what I'm going to touch on today is our national headquarters. As most of you would know, that I am now South Australia's director on the actual board there after Bronson, for his reasons, resigning. I believe that we still could have had representation as a state on there, and being as an alternate director, I was nominated onto that board. One of the first board meetings that I went to was we all got called in because the ACNC report on national, the investigation into national, came through about 3 weeks ago, maybe 4 weeks at a stretch. Very damning report. It wasn't confidential at the time. Matter of fact, it's up on the ACNC website now. Pretty damning report, so we got called to Canberra for a couple of days to discuss it and go through all the points that they brought up. Essentially, the investigation was in regards to the gifting of the previous state president, Rear Admiral Ken, National President, I beg your pardon, Rear Admiral Ken Doolan of a car, and of the books and things that were given to him as he resigned. They've, in a nutshell, they're investigating. They've since had to pay that. Rear Admiral Doolan has had to pay back as far as the car goes, and the books have been given back, and they're going to be auctioned off, and all the rest of it. So they've actually complied in that respect of what they've had to do. They've also stated that their governance was, well, there was no governance really. Now, and this is in this new we're going back probably 10 years now, since the new people that have taken over, and you went from your national secretary and you changed to CEO and everything. Because I can tell you, I had 10 years at National as the assistant national secretary there, and I know that governance was spot on. And we were dealing with ASIC there, and he didn't breathe right, you were fine. And I knew, because I used to look after it. So what happened after there and the people that came in, I don't know. It went all right for a few years, but then it started to go downhill because people thought that they didn't have to be accountable and they didn't have to be transparent, and they could run a business however they wanted. So they've been taken to task over a pretty damning report. We spent 2 days going through it top to bottom, and the bottom line out of it, they said that we have to appoint governance experts to bring the governments back up to line, and what we're missing. And I can tell you, it's just unreal what they haven't put in and what they haven't done. And the question is whether they'll take their charitable status off them as well. They haven't come back in that respect yet, because we have to comply going forward by putting governance experts in. So out of that came a directions letter which we received last week. And the directions is it's up on the ACNC website, and we now have to give them names of the governance experts that we're going to bring in as a board to see the national RSL move forward and become compliant and all the rest of it. We've come up with some names. As late as last Friday, we were given, and we're on a really strict timeline, and if anyone's worked with the ACNC, they don't give you an hour over or an hour under, they give you the time you'll be on that time and on that date. So there's some really strict dates and really strict timelines. So far, since we've had the directions order, which was only last week, we've done those. We've formed a letter, we've got people coming in. We had to provide a list of people who we thought, like KPMG, Deloitte, or a Clayton Woods or Price Waterhouse or somebody like that. well, I can tell you KPMG at that particular time is the only one that we could go forward with, because the rest of them has had RSL involvement, national involvement, over some sort of period. And that, ideally, that is not what they're looking for. If we don't come up with people who we're going to have, that we would consider they will provide somebody for us, whether we like it or not. National will has to foot the bill for that. Now we've got, I think it's 3.5 months to come up and sort out the government's issues, but there are dates that we have to submit paperwork in and stuff for us. So it's been pretty bad up there what they've done, and I think it's had a big flow-on effect around the states, unfortunately, because they've hit, I think they've hit every state branch at the moment. Some of the smaller states have been squeaky clean, and they've had to still put in a couple of things that they may have overlooked, but nothing compared to the bigger states. And we're, out of the smaller states, we were probably, unfortunately, the worst, one of the worst. But in that regard, we're tracking along nicely at the particular point. We've got people putting in our stuff here for us. And we're in constant contact with the ACNC with our compliance and at what stage we're up to. I don't have a problem with here. I've got national to worry about now. And I'm confident, being on that board, that, you know, we will help push that through. So that's where national is. As far as the ACNC compliant, they virtually haven't been compliant for many, many years, and they're starting to tell the tale of it now. So, does anyone have any questions in regard to national? I think we're more really worried about our own state and what's happening here, but that's the overall picture. The next thorn in everyone's side is the... yes, sorry.
Sorry, Cheryl, Kerry from Drilling again. Is the national finance, if they've got to pay for this, is that going to affect our finances as a state branch law?
I'm sorry, Gary, I can't hear.
Is national's finance problems, if they've got to pay for all these administrators to come in, is that going to affect our finances at all?
No, it's not, because we all brought that up and we said that it's not up to the state to pay. But mind you, the directors who were on the board at that particular time in the last 10, 12 years, you know, should have made, they should have been accountable, and they should have known what they had to do. But no, it's not. National have money put aside to pay that. It's not coming back to the states, because we all stated that it is not the state's problem. To run as a national board and expect us to be compliant as states, as they're our hierarchy, if you like, in the Defence Force, up through the chain of command, well, you know, they haven't set a good example either. So it's up to them to fix it. Now, the thorn in everybody's side is the RSL Art Union. I think we've been the only state that's challenged it, because I think all of you out there at some stage have walked into your local shopping centre and seen a little stall up there with people with blue and white shirts on with an RSL badge, and there's all RSL photos, and they're saying, you know, come and buy a ticket there. And these are going to current serving soldiers. Well, they should have said that to me when I sort of walked past, because I know that the funds aren't going to current serving soldiers. But these are going to help, you know, veterans do this. These are going to help veterans do that. And I challenge them each time. I know Bronson's challenged them. I know Bill Denny's challenged them in his shopping centres. I know quite a few people have challenged them. I've stood there watching other veterans that I don't even know of the street challenge them, and the way these people are speaking to them and telling them, we're not happy about it. So South Australia's gone to national, only at the last board meeting. Bronson started it off. They never ever came back with an answer, or they tried to skirt around it all the time, but we just kept persisting and persisting. We went to the state government and Veterans SA here and said that we want to pull out as a state. We do not want them in our state. They're aggressive, they're selling aggressively. We've got getting veterans ringing up and saying that they do not want to buy the tickets. You know, they've paid out money, they've signed up, and they're getting direct debits, and they thought that they were doing it to help the RSL. It's not helping the RSL, it's helping Queensland. So we started fighting that from here, and it's actually been taken to the state government here. And I don't know how we're going to do it. We don't even know if it can be done. But the state... Sorry, you go, Bronson.
Just a quick heads up on that one. The state government recommends that anybody that feels affronted by the RSL union should write directly to Consumer Business Affairs with a complaint. And enough complaints will then issue then force the CBA, Consumer Business Affairs, to investigate the RSL union. So it's right.
Can we just get a common letter written out and then we just give it to all their members and then say
we can do that. Yeah. So it's, and the sellers are quite aggressive. And thank you, Roger, because that's you've updated me, because I was talking to Veterans SA member last week, and we were talking about the government considering removing the licence for them to operate in South Australia. So at the National Board meeting last week and a half ago when I was up there, I had that put on the agenda for up there. Well, he did send the State President of Queensland went absolutely white and started on his phone to text message to his state, obviously saying what the hell's going on, this is what's happened and all the rest of it. And he came back in after lunch and he said, you know, we stand to lose $12 million if it's taken out of South Australia. And I said, really? I said, so where's the money for South Australia? Yeah, exactly. And I said, the understanding, and having worked at National, the understanding, although this was started in 1946 or something like that, little, but as it grew, it, the National directors 20 years ago put it how they wanted to operate the foundation, where a percentage of anything gained in any state, a percentage came back to that state depending on your membership, and it was to go out, like it'd come back to the state and the state would issue out to the sub-branches and things, and depending on their pro rata on their membership. It's never happened. They say that they put it into research, into PTSD research. I said, where? Where are the results? Where have we seen this, you know? And I said, well, that's all very well. I said, well, where's the money? Where's the rest of the money? That's for so much. I said, that's 12 million from South Australia. What about the other states? And the other states, oh, no, it doesn't matter, we don't know, you know, they all start to backpedal. And I said, well, you know, we need, it should come back to the members. It should come back to us. Oh, that's PTSD research, and then we have to buy new homes to sell. And we try and help out every state as we can. If you want anything, we'll help you out. I said, yes, but with strings attached, as it has been. So anyhow, I've since spoken to their CEO up there on Monday actually. I spoke with him and we went through it, and I said, you know, you're not hearing me. Our membership would like to know, they're up in arms, we want it removed from there unless we can come to some sort of agreement that some money is coming back into this state. At the moment, it is feathering the coffers of Queensland and not too many other people. And he said, well, I showed you know about the university study we're doing on PDS. And I said, no, we don't know anything. Well, we've told your previous board, your previous state president, and all the members who have come before them that this is what we're doing, and with that money is what is happening. And this is what we've done for your state. We've provided you this, we've provided you that. I said, well, you put that in the list to me, and you give it to me by next Monday, because we have a board meeting Tuesday, and then we can discuss it further at our board meeting, and then we'll take it from there, how far we'll go. We're not the only state that's upset about the art union. We've got Tasmania is very much against it, even so that they've had a lot of people ring National to say they're aggressive, they don't like the way they treat everybody, and you go from one to the other, they tell lies, and it's only Queensland benefit. So it's been put out there now, and we'll keep you informed of how we're going with that. But it's just going to be chipping away. Yes, Rob?
The last time I jumped, and I actually got a figure quoted with regards to the PTSD, it was 7 million. So if you want to take that back, that's what was directly quoted to me, that they've spent 7 million on PTSD.
Well, I'd like to know where the other 5 million from South Australia, if the money was withdrawn, then the other however many millions from the other states have gone.
Exactly. So that's the actual quote at the moment.
Yeah, so they can all fly business class and spend in top motels, and I have to go out to the damn caravan park. Sorry, yeah.
I have a very good friend in Queensland who's
sort of involved with the art unions a bit, and he's quoted me figures in excess of $50 million a year that comes in through the RSL Art Union into Queensland. So if it's all going there, where's our bit?
And they're prospering, and we're suffering. All the little states are suffering.
Just to add to that comment, it's a $103 million year activity annually. They make $57 million annually through the lottery. So it's a significant amount of money.
That's profit, is it?
Yep, $57 million in profit. Based on their 16-17
just take one. Shit out of the hotel.
But just a bit of history on the art union. When it was first established, Queensland took it to every other state in Australia and asked them if they wanted to be part of the art union that they were going to establish. And every other state knocked it back at the time. I think that they probably thought it wasn't going to work, but it has turned out a huge asset for Queensland. And I'm not speaking on behalf of Queensland or their art union, I'm just trying to give you some history behind it. But they do spend a lot of money. They pump $6 million into Mates for Mates. And the only reason I know that is we've been working closely with Mates for Mates to bring them to the Northern Territory. They'll be a huge asset for us if we can get them to come. And I believe by July this year they'll be in a position to offer us a memorandum of understanding. But it's still going to cost us and the government money to keep them in the NT. But it's your decision. I don't want to influence you any way at all, but that's the history of it.
Okay.
Are they non-for-profit?
Yes.
Good profit on that.
Good profit for them.
It's a surplus.
Surplus.
I think it's important to mention that art unions sit outside all the charitable provisions. You're paying money to go on a lottery. It's not a donation. You're getting something in exchange. So it's a huge work in that regard.
Right now, and we'll keep you posted as things come to hand in all that. The last thing I want to touch on very quickly is, I don't know, people have heard of the suicide memorial, the National Suicide Memorial that was going to be erected. No, well there was. There's not anymore at this particular point. They've since, because we went to National as a state and said we thought it was abhorrent that, you know, we've had enough suicides within our military as it is, and I hate opening a Facebook page because there's someone comment or there's somebody that's happened, or we've been reminded of someone's anniversary or something like that. And unless you've had you've lost a child or lost anyone to a suicide, people don't begin to understand what it is and how it feels. And I certainly, I have certainly experienced that. Suffice to say that I was very strong against it, as were our other board members, and we thought it was abhorrent. I erected a memorial for these people's names so that other younger ones, and especially some of the ones who are really frail out there at the moment, and haven't taken that first step to get help yet, see a name and say, wow, this is how I can get my name up, and then people will remember me. Isn't that terrible? I mean, and that's what's the thought, the bandy around there, bandy thing around it is. So then Dr. Brendan Nelson, I understand, has done a recent study, and they've come up with that they would probably, because they've had all these negative points about this suicide memorial, that they would come up with a reflections memorial that would cater for not just a person who has taken their life by mental suicide, but it's for all families and for all people, just a reflections memorial. So it's a work in progress, there's a paper happening on it at the moment, and we'll keep you informed as that comes to hand.
Just on that, there was 86 veterans last year.
Yes, I know, I keep being reminded, Warren, thank you, yes. Yes, I understand that. So on that note, I'll hand you back to Bronson.
Thank you, Hopper. I just briefly, I know everybody's able to get out of the chairs, but I want to introduce the new CEO, give him a chance to talk about himself, but I also want to reiterate how the hiring process went, because I know this, this is, I think, to my knowledge, the first time we've actually hired somebody, a recruitment agency. We've gone out to the open market, so everybody in Australia who looked at SEEK could see that position, all right? So I did not know Kim until he came for his interview. So there is no jobs for the boys, as somebody said when Sam came on board. So it's none of that, all right? This was a process that we walked through. It was the process that most companies use to select a CEO. I invited 3 sub-branch presidents selected at random, and the way that they were selected randomly was the staff officer at the time, who had only been working in the RSL for about 2 days. I said, find me three sub-branch presidents, one from regional South Australia, one from the Adelaide metropolitan area, one from the Northern Territory. And because Marty didn't know any better, he just picked up and went, dink, dink, dink. So we got 3 that showed up. We went to interview 4 people? 4, sorry. We interviewed 4 people, and through a selection process, we decided that Kim was the best suited person to lead the executive of this organization. He comes with years and years of experience running membership-based not-for-profits. That's what we are. He has experience in taking organizations that are kind of on the nose and building their profile and, importantly, their governance back up. So, in the last, and I'll just throw him under the bus here in a second, he's moved back here from Sydney, and so he's made a big step and a big commitment to come back to South Australia to work within the league. He's not just going to be here for a year, get us out of the hole that we dug ourselves into. He's going to be here for the long haul. I encourage all of you to bring his ear and get to know him, because we've been around for a while. Okay? I know you've got some notes, but before Kim starts, I should mention Sam. Stand up, Sam, please. All right, so this is the young woman who has been keeping the ship upright and on a steady course for the last 3 months. She was only ever here, one, because she didn't want to come and work with me in my private business, so probably you. But Sam is leaving us Wednesday. After three months of some very, very hard work that she had to pick up. And so I commend her in a new position. She's going to go volunteer over in East Timor for the next 14 months, I think, teaching living women's.
Working with an association that's doing grassroots empowerment for women affected by violence. So I'm leave from the Air Force and I'll be doing that for them.
So I think just a round of applause for Sam. All right, over to you.
Thanks, Bronson, and I'd add my thanks to Sam as well. She's put me on a very steep learning curve since I joined a couple of weeks ago, but it's been terrific, and she's done a really good job in holding things together. So thanks, Sam. So I just wanted to tell you a little bit about me first, and the first thing you should all know is that I have never been a serving member of the military. I am a veteran though. I'm a veteran of business, and I think that's what this organisation needs right now. We have plenty of military experience in this organisation, no question. We need a little business experience as well. That's not to say that my family, however, have not had a very significant history of the military in South Australia. My grandfather was in the Light Horse and saw action in North Africa. My father, all these people are from Adelaide or surrounds. My father tried to enlist in the Air Force in World War II, but they knocked him back because he was colourblind. So being an optical mechanic, he spent the entire war making gun sights for tanks. I have an uncle who served as a junior officer in Papua New Guinea, and another uncle who was a bombardier in Lancaster, out of England, and another uncle who was in the Air Force as a meteorologist and ended up at Butterworth for most of his career, his later career until he retired. So we have, my family has quite a history. I worked for some time years ago with defence contractors, and that's where I guess I got my feeling for the military and decided that it was the place where I wanted to come and give something back to. As Bronson mentioned, for the last 11 years I've been working in not-for-profit organisations, or membership-based organisations mainly. The last one was an organisation called Strata Community Australia, which is the peak body for the strata industry in Australia. I was the national CEO of that organisation based in Sydney, and I must say I'm very glad to be out of Sydney and back in beautiful Adelaide. One of the questions that often gets asked of an incoming person in this position is, what are you going to do in your first 100 days? And I'm not sure that that's very applicable in this situation, because it's going to take a lot longer than 100 days. The problems that this organisation has in a governance and financial respect are significant, but they're fixable. They're eminently fixable. Bronson's also right that we need a board of people who can step up to the mark. We need skills on that board, not necessarily geographic representation, because that doesn't necessarily give you the best result from a board point of view. So, like Bronson, I would encourage you all to have a look within your own constituency and find those people who have the genuine skills that are needed to run an organisation like this. And I'll look forward to working with them in the future. I've said to the board there are 4 stages, I think, in bringing the organisation back to where it needs to be. First thing is to fix the money. Clearly in the past the money has been a problem, and so priority 1 is to fix that. To do that, what we're doing, and Sam's been a great help with this over the last couple of weeks as well, is we've got to get those grants acquitted so that we can get the new applications funded. I met with Veterans SA on Friday, who have assured me that once we get our acquittal done for the last round, the new round will be funded. So Sam's going to run that up to his office, Rob's office at lunchtime, so that we get that funded. Interestingly, Veterans SA said that even if we had not managed to do that, that they would not let the commemoration of Anzac Day fall over. He suggested to me that if we had any trouble acquitting those grants, that what we should do is we should engage all of the contractors that we needed to and have their invoices sent direct to Veterans SA, who would pay them. So it's nice to know that we have friends in government who are there to help us and to help the entire community. So that's the first thing. We got to fix the money, and we got that underway. It's a little late to get yet, but we got it underway. The second thing is to rebuild the credibility of this organisation. The RSL brand has suffered an enormous amount of harm, not only in South Australia, but in other states and nationally, and that's something that we have to fix. And so we'll be trying to do that in many different ways. One of them is to reach out to younger vets who seem to turn up their nose at the RSL a little bit. I met with Greg Captain-Weller on Friday about getting some of his junior officers and his senior NCOs involved in the everyday running of our organisation here, so that they can get some experience with the RSL, get to know us, and talk in friendly terms about us to their folks out at Edinburgh. So that'll be happening in the next little while. So that's one example of the things we can do, but we do need to reach out into areas that perhaps considered a bit non-traditional. The third thing we need to do after we have established some credibility is to seek new funding partners. Now, whether that be the government or for private enterprise or wherever it comes from, money is the key to us being able to deliver services. And so we need, first of all, to rebuild our credibility, but then we need to go seek those new funding opportunities. And we'll be doing that, again, that's not a 100-day thing. Once we've done that and we've got our programs funded, we can actually go do it. So I guess what I'm trying to paint for you is a picture that this is not going to be fixed in the next 6 weeks or the next 6 months. This is probably a 3 to 5 year program of rebuilding the organisation to where it needs to be and where it deserves to be. So, as Bronson said, I'm not a hit and run person. I'm here for the long haul. I want to see this succeed. I have made a big move back from Sydney, but as I said, I'm very happy to have done that. I'm very happy to be here, and I'm privileged to have the role of CEO of this organisation. Thank you.
We're 15 minutes ahead, that's good. Last time we were about an hour late, so hey, we're good. Is Mel out there? Where's lunch being served?
It'll be out here at
Oh, okay.
tables around you.
Okay, cool. So we're a little bit ahead of schedule. So back here at 12:30, please, and we'll answer some questions. That's all right. Lunch will be up pretty shortly. Thank you very much. So with the invitation to come to today's activity, we ask that people submit questions, particularly some that may require some research. The reason for that was that we didn't want to continuously go through a Q&A where we were saying, I'll get back to you on that one, I'll get back to you on that one. So we did have, I think, probably about 15 questions submitted from about 5 different people. What I'll do is I'll just read through the questions and give you the answer, or if we've already spoken about it, I'll just say we've addressed it. If we have time at the end, I'll take 5 questions from the floor, but only 5, because once again, I got to get to work. But you can always have to check with some of the other board members. Once again, my thanks to Nell and the Women's Auxiliary for the afternoon for lunch. So many thanks for that. It's funny, I just don't know all the little things that happen in the RSL that just automatically get taken care of, that I just kind of stumble into, and that's a good example of just things happening, and I do actually really appreciate that. First question we've got from Murray Bridge, Murshuk, did I pronounce that right? What are the results of the forensic audit? Why haven't the results been promulgated? I mentioned Ray asked that same question, and the same answer still is that it's yes, Ray.
Bronson, the question really is, the forensic audit, I would have thought, was the base document for somebody being held responsible, accountable, court-martialed, shot, sword broken, whatever. So the question is not just the audit, but the extension is, how far along the way are we to taking some, doing something about it?
Very fair question. And that relates actually back to a couple of things that are the other questions that we have here. The next question, and this will be answering, are we pursuing criminal charges against anybody, or will there be any repercussions for directors' malpractice? So to answer the first one, the forensic audit is actually not property of the South Australian RSL. It's property that was conducted and paid for by National, and they don't want to get it out because of legal issues surrounding. It's a very pointed document, and they don't want to wear it in the courts right now. So it's not our property to give away. We didn't commission it, so we don't own it. Are we pursuing criminal charges against anybody? I can tell you what we're doing right now is assisting the Crown Solicitor in gathering evidence into an investigation that is currently ongoing. And are we assisting them to the fullest? Absolutely we are. And I can only imagine that there probably could be repercussions moving forward. The next question is, why hasn't the Tony Flaherty saga been settled? He is still the only legitimately elected director. We spoke about that already. Anybody require any further clarification on that matter?
Yes. I'm not having to answer your question, but I'm asking, could you just slow down a little bit?
Oh, sorry.
So we can understand. You speak, you're getting excited.
Yeah.
You see the I know you're in a hurry to get back to work. Can you just slow down?
No, I can, it's my accent and my, I guess my desire to show up to work on time this afternoon to be good. All right. Why hasn't the Tony Flaherty saga been settled? Is he still the only legitimately elected director? And we discussed that already. Are there any further questions regarding that matter? No? What is the current financial situation with the Avoca Hotel, profit, loss wise? I think we discussed that already. Any further questions regarding that issue?
Yes, how did it come to Ironbark? How did it come about?
All right.
I don't want to go there.
I think most of us know the story, but I'd be happy offline to discuss that with you. Several questions from David Lang, and I'm going to ask Trevor to come up and assist me in answering these series of statements and questions, as a lot of it is historical in nature, and I'm simply just going to have my head around some of these things. But I'll read it to you. The Murray Bridge sub-branch wishes to know why any sub-branch is obliged to accept members on their listing who are considered of bad character and not a good representation of the RSL's standards.
The reality is you can reject that membership, but if you want to talk to the president of Port Broughton, you'll find out what happens when you reject one and you're going to front the courts later this month. But it's your call, but if the individual is so inclined, he can take you to the court and try and challenge it. The reality is, whether you win or not depends on the magistrate and how the court battle goes. But magistrate or whatever it is. But you can reject. I'm probably sure although it doesn't say it in these questions, I'm sure it stems back to some stuff in Murray Bridge a few years ago. In a broad sense, I think some of that so far in the history, we're certainly not going to pay Rick Harley any more legal advice to re-give us what he gave the previous board around that matter. Whether it was right or wrong, well, we all have a view, but I don't think it can continue to be revisited. Unfortunately, I think it's a case that's just got to move on.
Trevor, could I just, as the author of that question, you'll say we can reject an application or reject the subs when they're paid to us each year. If this person pays their subs either online to State Branch or comes down here personally and pays them, we have no control over that. So this person's name appears on our sub-branches listing every year. Now this same person, no names, has been expelled from 2 previous sub-branches and suspended from Murray Bridge sub-branch on numerous occasions. He is held by the Murray Bridge sub-branch as being a person of bad character. When he was asked to come forward and explain allegations of misappropriation of monies and bringing the Murray Bridge RSL sub-branch into disrepute, he promptly got himself a solicitor, and we never saw him again, or his solicitor. His name is still on our listing, and I have the president sitting alongside me. Neither he nor I, or the committee or the members, want his name associated with the Murray Bridge sub-branch. How do we get rid of it?
It's a good point, but I don't really know how you can. Now, you got something to say?
I think there's more to it than that.
Yes, there is more to it.
Take all the steps,
Sorry, well, I might not, but realistically, your only recourse is through the Constitution and the bylaws, and that is to expel him as a member of the sub-branch. Once you expel him, then you expel him throughout, not only South Australia, but all of Australia.
To suspend him for 3 months.
Sorry?
According to the Constitution, the sub-branch only has the right to suspend him for a period of 3 months.
But you're
That's the
referring to
first
tribunal.
One at a time, we did that last year.
Yeah. And what happened?
It was wiped under the carpet. I came here and handed a fistful of documents that thick, a file on this person, and Julia handed it straight to Rick Harvey, and within a month he was also gone. So then I handed the same ones to Corey, and within months he was gone. So if you want to get rid of him, you tell me I'm handing it.
Sounds like a poison challenge being Nick Williams is obviously the head of the tribunal, all right? One of the things that we have spoken about with regards to these problems is to get an investigation team together.
Which we
a
have.
Totally independent investigation team now.
Which we have.
Have we now got this in place, and we were hopeful that we'd be able to recruit, obviously, ex-inspectors of government organisations or police officers to police that investigation.
Which we have.
So that the evidence is gathered properly, according to law, and therefore we can get rid of these people as we go on.
The sub-branch might be under the Constitution for 3 months. You're correct, David. However, after that, and I know you followed that process, and it's called cactus twice that you've done it, but it should come into here to be investigated and go to tribunal. That is the only way that we are going to finally get rid of these people, because you're not the only sub-branch. There's a lot of them out there. There's a lot playing havoc out there at the sub-branches, and they think they're untouched and whatever. Now, I've actually sat on tribunals here where we've put them to the unallotted list or we've expelled them. So it can happen, but it's just unfortunate that the 2 times or whatever, the others have absconded as well. So obviously made it difficult for them.
We have a comment in the back of the room.
Yeah.
Back of the room. Sorry.
Yes, if it does go to the tribunal, Ian Gardner, by the way, if it does go to the tribunal and they find in your case, okay, can that person then be called persona non grata and excludes them from all of Australia? Because that's where...
That is the case.
That is the case.
As soon as the state tribunal decides that they are expelled from the RSL, that applies nationally. However, that person has the right from the state tribunal to appeal to the national
tribunal.
Right?
And that's where the trouble's lie. It's going to be appeal after appeal after appeal.
No, it stops at national. So national is either yes or no, right?
All right. Okay.
Unfortunately, this particular person once had an appeal that he took to national, and national agreed with him. Otherwise, we would not have had to put up with this particular individual from Murray Bridge for at least the last 12 years.
Are we going to make a comment on that?
Just a question, actually, it's Brad Farley before me. Is the investigation still being worked on or considered? Because I was asked to be a member of it
and you haven't been contacted? Oh, surprise. Yes, there is an investigation committee, and probably you're one of the members that hadn't been contacted yet, but it has actually carried out a couple of investigations, because I know I've done the transcripts from them. So now why you weren't contacted, I'm not going to tell you a lie, I don't know. So yeah, but if you're still happy to be on it, we'll have you on it.
We can do an investigation.
Yeah, well, I better investigate that.
All right, we're going to move on.
I just want to explain just very briefly in relation to the Port Port and RSL, which I have the honour of being the president. It can also happen that there are people, such as the one that we're having to deal with, who has been dealt with for 10 years via our club, via the right processes, from state office via the right processes, and being told this decision is final, He has now found a way outside of the RSL and has lodged a civil action against the Port Port and RSL for $10,000, to which has gone me from 0 to up there with anger, and I've used many unprofessional, not very ladylike words against this person. However, he has found a way around because the RSL has said no. He's now lodged civil action, and we are in a case where we have to defend that. And do you think I'm pretty stinking about it? You're right, I am, but I will defend it. We have a we have a directional hearing on the 23rd of April. My biggest concern is how we will handle that without getting really angry, but I'm sure I can. But and hopefully it won't proceed to court, but if it does, that's where we're at. He has found a way around the system and he has now lodged a civil action, claiming that we owe him $10,000. Well, as long as my little bottom points there, that's never going to happen. So, you know, that's another thing we have to do.
And we'll give you all the support in that, Sandra.
Yeah, they will indeed. I know, I'm well aware of that. Thank you.
The reality is national or state tribunals are not the end of the matter ever. At the end of the day, everyone has the right to go to law, and we talked about an earlier one this morning that's gone down exactly the same path. Does it end up there?
Yes.
Can I humbly suggest that people look towards the Associations and Corporations Act, and in there it says natural justice. So use natural justice, and there's no comeback outside of the RSL to start with. And as a matter of fact, the Associations and Corporations Act overrides anything in your constitution. No matter what you think, that is the fact of the matter. So if you use the Act right from the word go, you're covered.
Except that that's exactly what he's using.
He's using that constitution to beat the RSL.
That's right.
And the courts accepted it.
Because the Act was not used on him in the first place. We used the Constitution.
It was.
And now the Act.
Knowing the case, this individual went through all of that, and he's gone to his lawyers, and his lawyers have agreed, and the courts agreed that he's still got a claim despite all of that.
Well, I would suggest that natural justice wasn't carried out, and that's the only way to do it.
I'm sorry,
we need to move on.
We need to move on.
Don't forget the majority of the sub-branches of licensed premises as well. They're subject to legislation with the licensing act. And if they're, I'm going by a long-living memory now, reputed thieves versus poor reputation, disorderly, drunk, you can kick them out.
Because these people don't necessarily visit the sub-branch at all, so you can't kick them out for physically being there, they just want to be a member.
It's just another avenue.
So, another question from David. In 2014-15, the former president was asked by the new committee, this is Murray Bridge, to attend a meeting at the RSL to discuss matters of misappropriation of funds and to answer questions about mismanagement of RSL money. He refused to attend and engaged a lawyer to act on his behalf. I'm not sure where the question is in that one.
It's all around the same subject, isn't it?
Is it? Okay. Have we discussed your questions in enough detail, David, or is there anything else that you'd like to ask?
We just want an end to the entire situation. It's taken 5 years of our time so far as part of the committee and my part as the regional coordinator. And as I said, I've still got the file. I can send the file through this afternoon to Nell. But where does it go from here? Around until it's never heard of again, or do we get a resolution?
I mean, it should have been taken care of, no doubt. Being a culprit, I'll wear it. If you want to send it through again, send it to Nell, but make sure it's also CC'd to myself as well as the CEO. It's probably helpful. Sorry, I threw it on the bus, Kim. But, any other questions that you had? Is that right? Okay. Marion, is it true that the RSL-owned land at Victor Harbour has been sold? And was it sold for a profit? The land has not been sold as of yet, and I discussed that previously. E, could a delegation of the presidents make a representation to HLB and JHT, so two of our creditors and entities either controlled in part by former board members, go to them to lower their claimed amounts as the RSL SA creditors. So, could the state presidents here go and do that of their own accord? Absolutely. Have I approached them and asked for them to lower their debt or lower our debt? I have, and was
very short thrift.
Very short thrift. So it was. It's just a matter. Of course, I did ask them in writing, but until such time as we come out from underneath the deeds of company arrangement, there's very little we can do. Past that, there are avenues that we can do as a league, such as we can tax the bill, which is a legal term for going back and asking the legal firm to please show what monies were spent on what activities, and they have a requirement to do that. They just have to. With regards to the accounting firm, we can ask them similarly that we can go to the professional associations which manage accountants and accounting firms here in South Australia, and ask them to assist us in what do we actually pay for? Did we overpay? Did they deliver anything based on the invoice? So, could we do it? We can do a lot of things after we come out under the dockers. Have we done some things? We have already. Yes, ma'am.
Bronson, a couple of us wrote to the Law Society about the conflict of interest. Has the RSL done that?
We have not written to the Law Society, but I have spoken to them on several occasions regarding this matter. They have sent me I think it's a complaint form, and then I checked with the, I sought some legal advice, and then I also spoke to the administrators, and as they are a creditor at this stage, we just need to wait until they're not a creditor anymore. Because what I don't want to do is interrupt or disrupt the deeds of company arrangement moving forward. When we're out of that, strike swiftly.
The other good news is it's only 98% of lawyers that get the rest of bad name.
That's very comforting, Robbie.
Yes. We have a couple of questions from Steve Watkins. Are you still there, Steve? If I misquote, please let me know. Can we please have a report on the progress against the dockers, given some sub-branches are creditors and everyone has an interest in the outcome? As I briefly described the dockers, or the update about that earlier, is there anything else you'd like me to speak about? And that these will all go out to everybody. Because beyond this report here, which everybody can have a copy, the only thing I have to add to that is the Tony Flaherty affair. Yes, Steve?
I guess the other thing I asked about is, are there any particular areas of risk? And I guess one that's probably sitting in the background for every sub-branch is membership, collections and transmitting them to the state branch.
What do you mean risk
of
the money?
The money coming in at the requisite rate.
Oh.
For membership.
Yes. The last three sub-branches paid up, the last sub-branch paid up 2 weeks ago. So we've received all the capitations to date.
What is the overall position interim distribution? What is the overall likelihood of achieving 100 cents in the dollar for all creditors by the end of the process? And I would say that I don't think it was ever 100 cents on the dollar. I think that RSL Care was going to take 90 cents on the dollar for their debt. So, and currently it does look like some of the creditors that were looking at 100% will fall to a particular point of which I couldn't tell you at this stage. But to answer your question, it is not likely that all the creditors will receive 100 cents on the dollar. What are the areas of risk? You just mentioned membership, sale of assets. I described earlier there is a difficulty in selling the land in Victor Harbour, for example, and so still moving through that process. The sale of assets in the Northern Territory is also moving slowly, but still moving forward. One of the things that I find difficult as the person, I guess, who signed it is that this is the first update we received from them, and that we had to request that not just in writing on one occasion, but several occasions. So it is a very difficult company to work with, to be honest with you. Unanticipated matters. Sorry.
Has the sale of Alice Springs gone through?
Not that I'm aware of.
Sorry?
Not that I'm aware of.
There is an offer.
There is an offer, I think.
There is an offer on it.
Subject to rezoning.
That's right.
Yes. To educational precinct.
Sorry, just on, if that's ongoing about Alice Springs, one of the questions was the gentleman that absconded with a large sum of money was being pursued. Has that got any further?
No.
Steve?
They caught him, but naturally he has no money. He's extradited from Tasmania, as I understand.
Unanticipated matters. Can you give an example, Steve, what you mean by
I think the flooding thing is the
okay.
point there.
All right. Given the recent letter...
Yeah, not Brad Flood.
Sorry, Steve?
Sorry, Brad Flood is sitting next to me, it's not you.
Given the recent letter to creditors, which outlines the provision being made for litigation actions by State Board Member Tony Flaherty, can we have an explanation of what action is and how someone can be on the board taking legal action? I think all right. So those are all the questions that I received. I'll ask for questions but not comments moving forward.
Bronson, Wayne Bank for Teaching Valley. Now that the sub-branches are responsible for membership, the percentage that we were getting is $10 per full members and $10 per affiliate. We believe that there is an added cost in running it ourselves, and therefore that we're requesting that it be $15.15 rather than $10.10. So if it's $40 for a service member, we get $15 of it rather than $10. And the second one is if it's affiliate at $35, we get $15.
So what's the question?
We raised it before, but we never heard if that was been appropriate. We raised that question on membership and finance about collection of copy day and ANZAC badges and everything else like that. And the sub-branches were doing all the work, but not getting anything out of it. We asked that at the last forum that we believe that 10% of that should go back to the sub-branch for the work that it does put in. That's after we pay the badges and everything else like that. But we hadn't heard if that had been formally instigated.
It hasn't.
No.
That hasn't been formally put into place. There is a real. So New South Wales has got themselves a bit of bother with regards of sub-branches selling stuff on behalf of the state branch and not being able to equip what they've sold properly. And that's, I mean, they got a lot of trouble for that. That's why they just stopped all sale of poppies and those kind of things. We too run that very same risk, and so we need to, prior to asking you guys to sell things for us, we need to look carefully at the law behind it. And one of the ways that I've been told that it could happen, and I may have said this the last one, is that the sub-branch has become an agent for the state branch in order to sell this particular property. And they get an agent's fee out of that. And I think that legally, I think that's the only way we can really move forward. With regards to the actual membership fees, I actually mentioned before that I think that if the sub-branches are doing more, so not just the impulse of going through the form and making sure they fill it out and get their service number, that's an impulse, but that's not a very big impulse. But really, if the monies that you want to hold on to as sub-branch, and this is something that maybe we should wait for the AGM for, or bring it up as an issue, is really, if as a sub-branch I'm not taking 10, I'm taking 15, well, me as the state president are going, all right, now you need to up your game. Now you need to do more in that space. That's what I would argue. Now, if we went the other way, and we took more, then you would expect us to really up our game too. There is merit in what you're, absolute merit in what you're saying.
Yeah, it's just that the ongoing, a lot of our older members don't have emails, so you've got to make phone calls, you've got to write letters, and you've got to chase them up. Yeah, I know.
And the state branch is the same. There's a lot of members that aren't, a lot of people that aren't on emails as well. That's
The
very
financial situation we're in now, it's not appropriate.
No.
I don't believe. Let's get head office out of the shit first, and then look at it.
That's fine to say if you are a sub-branch that's financial. We received an electricity bill of $3,100. Now that takes us sell a lot of product to try and recoup that money. So to say that, the sub-branches are doing all the legwork as well, so that's why we're saying that should really happen.
All right. Let's keep one person at a time, please. I don't know the gentleman in the back. Yes, with your hand up. You had a question?
Yeah, thank you for the time, Ben. I was just, we had some elderly people come out for dinner about a month ago, and they said that RSL Care had bought Waterford Estate in Murray Bridge. I was just wondering, you said just before in regards to RSL Care that we owe them money or something as well.
Okay. So I'll ask Jeff real quick in the back to confirm or deny the purchase of the property in Murray Bridge, which I think is a yes.
Yes, Jeff Hassel, and I don't know which hat I'm wearing at this moment, but I am on the board of RSL Care. Yes, we did buy a retirement village at Murray Bridge, the Waterford Retirement Village. $8.3 million is public knowledge. We took ownership just before Christmas. Nothing to do with the RSL. As everyone would be aware, RSL Care is a completely separate organisation. So yep, RSL Care now owns Waterford Village, and it's going along very nicely, very good village. Nothing to do with other money associated where the Obligate Trust owes both Anzac Remembrance Fund and the RSL money in relation to interest-free loans for the purchase of the Victor Harbour property. Bronson was talking about it before. Depending on what the sale price is of the Victor Harbour property, it is likely that those two creditors, the Anzac Remembrance Fund and RSL Care SA, are likely not to be paid out 100% of what they're due. But two separate matters, not related.
And I just thought that there's not too many veterans in the state. I just thought that RSL Care was to try and make it a bit easy for veterans to get accommodation. That's what I thought was set up for.
Yep.
Go ahead.
Yeah, just one. RSL Care provides a whole, a range of accommodation options. I mean, accommodation is our business. We do residential aged care. We do retirement living, and that's probably where the main income source. We do do a bit. We do get some benefit out of retirement residential aged care as well, and then we use that money to do other accommodation options which are not money earners. So we've got affordable housing options at various locations where we're providing cheap houses. And just recently we purchased a block of 10 units down at Sturt as a home for our homeless veterans, homeless accommodation, which is targeting younger veterans, and that's full up. So we are doing a range of accommodation options, and a lot of it, not all of it, but some is commercial, and then some, through that commercial operations, we get the resources to do the altruistic stuff, the charitable stuff.
Another question.
Yep. When I go from Blackwood RSL, this word doctors has been used. What in the world are you referring to, please? I don't know.
Okay, no, fair enough. It's called the deed of company arrangement. It is a vehicle in which the RSL's creditors sign the document, which has a plan to pay off their debt at a particular percentage of the cents on the dollar over a period of time, using particular assets in order to reach the payment.
So thank you, thank you.
Okay.
Jim Stofford from RAR RSL. Given that the assets within RSL's control are more than 50 million plus, inclusive of aged care assets, why are we in such a mess that we've had these administrators and God knows what come in?
All right. Why are we in a mess? At the last one, I mean, why are we in a mess? Over $700,000 leaving the Memorial Hall Trust without the trustee knowing. There's an example. That's one. So probably maladministration is what I'd say. The purchase of the Avoca Hotel for $5 million. There's probably another good reason. I don't know. Staff, oh yeah, 28 staff.
$2 million.
Oh yeah, $2 million in Alice Springs. I don't know. We could, I mean, there's just 5 examples, I think, of why we've gone from an entity that you described as a $50 million organization to an entity that's got $230,000 in the bank. We see paying for communication assets within this ongoing itself at about 5 times the market rate. Because, I don't know, my friend owns the company. I don't know. It's just trusted. Anybody else?
$220,000 legal.
Yeah, $220,000 legal bill, $450,000 in accounting fees. Rod?
But I think the gentleman is mistaken. You said 51 million in assets. We've never had 51 million in assets.
Can I just correct that? There is a misunderstanding, a correction. RSL Care owns the RSL assets. Correction, the retirement living, residential aged care. That is a completely separate entity to the RSL and always has been. So the RSL Care is a strong, well run, in a good financial position, which has nothing to do legally. It's not a controlled entity of the RSL. We're part of the RSL family, and RSL Care is contributing resources to the RSL to help them through this difficult phase. But please, everyone understands that the RSL Care assets have got nothing to do with the RSL. It's a completely different legal entity, and it's not a controlled entity of the RSL.
Sorry, Jeff.
Yeah,
Correct me if I'm wrong, originally the RSL gave that money originally to RSL Care? The assets?
They're in complicated story, but I'll try and keep it very simple. The RSL Care had its origins in the War Veterans Home at Bellbank and started in 1915. So it's generated its own different parts of the RSL over the years, particularly the Alexandra group down south, made donations to the War Veterans Home in the 50s, 60s, 70s. But up until about 2012, basically it was the War Veterans Home looked after itself. In 2012, there were a group of assets of the RSL that were transferred over to RSL Care. That was the RSL Villas at Angle Park, which was an aged care facility, and the affordable housing component that was not income producing. So yes, there has been, in 2012, there were some assets that came over to the to RSL Care SA, but in the main, they were not income producing, and they came over to us because the RSL, there was a view that the RSL didn't have the in-house expertise to manage it.
Just want to go back to your question again. And as I recall, in 2012, the organization's 2000, when did Jock leave?
Yes, it's still here.
When did he leave?
Middle of 2012.
Okay, so I was close. Oh, yeah. There was about $7 million in the bank account. So that's cash. So $7 million in the bank in 2012. All right. $234,000 in 2018. So there's a lot of money going out of the organization at a rapid rate. Now, figuring out where that money was spent, well, I think a lot of it was spent on wages. A lot. I think a lot was spent on legal fees, accounting fees, and some very, very poor investments. So that's if you talk about just cash in hand, all the stories with $2 million to Alice Springs, $5 million for the Avoca, you know, it just quickly you can see, you just choose through that. And I think our labor bill, and I stand to be corrected on this one, I really do, was somewhere in the order of about $95,000 to $100,000 per month. Per month. So that's I mean, you're just bleeding money at that stage, because most of those staff aren't actually producing or in a revenue generating position. They're just, and some of it, it's okay to not have a revenue generating position within a charity. Some of it is, Steve upstairs is not in a revenue generating position, but he's doing good things with advocacy and welfare. So hopefully that answered your question. I've got one more. 3 hands. Yes.
Where is your current wage rate?
Good question.
I missed the question.
What's the wage? What are we paying monthly in wages?
I have to look at it. You caught me on.
No,
in accordance with the budget.
What's that?
In accordance with the budget.
Okay, to answer your question, it is in accordance with the budget, and part of that budget is reviewed at the Audit and Finance Committee monthly, and quarterly the board gets a review of it. Okay? But honestly, I think right now we've got Sam's leaving on Wednesday, so that gives us Keith, Mel, and the CEO as full-time employees. And then we've got Jill, who's the accounting or the clerk. She's on 4 days a week.
Less than 300.
Oh, and so we got 3 full-time employees and 3 part-time employees.
Less than 300.
Yeah. Okay, we have a question over here. This gentleman back here, sorry.
All right.
Yep.
Peter Lehman, I'm from Regional Coordinator York Peninsula. We're hearing stories about, from the South Branch point of view, about tightening up audit requirements, tightening up the accounting and governance requirements. And I'm going to turn to Brenny on the right, probably who's involved in, I think, rewriting the Constitution. Is it fair to ask now how this might affect sub-branches? And in addition to that, are we controlled by the Associations and Corporations Act or by ACNC, whatever that is,
which governs, overrides the association? Both organisations, both the ACNC Act, both the ACNC Act and the South Australian Incorporations Act, Associations Act, both override our Constitution. Our Constitution is set up, was supposed to set up, a reflection of the Associations Act, because that is our immediate bridge above, shall we say. So therefore our Constitution has to legislatively agree with the Associations Act. Now, may I speak slightly out of turn with what's happened with regards to the Constitution over the last few
we're going to bring that up to the very end.
Steve, just to put all that in perspective, not all the sub-branches are set up under the Associations and Corporations Act. I'm the president of Peacekeepers, we're not. Most of you are. You only fall under the jurisdiction of the ACNC if you are a registered charity. Not everybody is. And you have to weigh up the value of that vis-a-vis the governance requirements to operate within it.
Thank you, Steve.
Just following up, can you understand the confusion? Because one says you need an audit and one says you don't. And it just depends where you sit it. Yet we have a constitutional requirement that have audits and have books of account, etc. But the two are actually, there's a conflict there. And we are following our constitution. But it's very non-specific about what is an audit. What sort of books of accounting? I've heard that, for example, they're coming out with a draft. The draft set of accounts that all sub-branches might use.
So the Associations and Corporation Act says that if you have a turnover of more than $500,000 a year, you have to be audited. External.
Most sub-branches don't.
Then under the Act, you don't have to be. All right. So it's if you are.
Don't listen to this.
No. I'm saying that under the Act it's not a requirement. It doesn't mean under your constitution or under the arrangement that you have with the state or national office, the RSL, you don't have to be. So there are two issues to look at. One is legislative and the other one is constitutional.
But when the financial accounts, I'm sorry to keep elaborating, but they're not really getting an answer, is that it gets down to nitty-gritty. You know, when the sub-branch comes out with an audited or a set of books, and it says they have to be audited, what do they mean by that?
Who says they have to be audited?
It states that in continuous.
If the Constitution says it has to be audited, it has to be audited.
Yeah, that's right.
It's not a legislative requirement, it's a constitutional requirement.
Okay, last question, Alan, Broken Hill.
Alan Turner, Broken Hill Sub-Branch Secretary. We are incorporated within the state of New South Wales, and we have to put in a financial statement and an auditor's report done by an accountant every year. And we are answerable to the Department of Fair Trade in New South Wales. And just another subject, during John Bailey's presidency, the fees for were increased from $25 a year to $40 a year because they did not want to sack anyone off.
Okay. So it brings us now to 15 minutes after 1. I think those are all the questions we're going to take. I'll take one small one and then
Dennis from Maxwell. Just because leading up to Anzac Day shortly, I've noticed on the website that the tags for the Anzac appeal and the Poppy appeal have been removed, so there's no reference on our website for those appeals anymore. Is there likely to be some information for specifically, obviously, the Anzac appeal prior to Anzac Day, so that the general public have a bit more confidence in how that money is going to be distributed and a bit of transparency?
So, it's actually, I think, 2 points there. One is, are we going to put it up on Facebook and website? And the other one is, we got to learn to tell stories. We got to tell the community what we're actually doing with the money that they donate to us. I think we just need to tell a better story. I mean, if we could state how much of that $5 poppy you buy goes to this thing over here that helps this broken person over here, we'd probably sell a lot more of these $5 poppies. There's also another concern about doing that. This is for us in the room, but what if that $5 poppy, what if only 25 cents goes to help this broken person and the rest is eaten up in production, marketing, so, but no, it's okay.
But she's been removed from the site, so there's nothing there.
Oh, was it? Sorry, Kim.
I can probably answer that, but we lost the capability of taking online payments when the bank was playing up in the administrators. I'll tell you what, you would not deal with Rogers Reed, you would not deal with Commonwealth Bank. Here, bastards. However, so we lost that capability that we had for people to make payments. I don't know whether it's been re-established. I know it's been horrendous on Trevor and Bronson and Jill and all that kind of thing, but I took them down when we couldn't take online payments anymore. But if there's a way of doing it, I'd happy to put it up again. So.
I'll get to your question in just a second. So Trevor and I have gone through a very painful process of getting just the F+ facility up and running. It's an appalling thing to go through, but it should be up and running very soon. Ma'am?
Yes, just one quick question on the subject of Anzac Day appeals. In the past, RSL HQ has always taken out the public, what do you call it, PI insurance for the Bagstaff. Are you going to do it again because it runs out on the 31st of March? Our insurance.
Yeah, we've currently got the insurance renewals are on my desk at the moment. We had a meeting with the brokers last week, and all bar one of the policies is basically okay for renewal. The one that's not relates to fidelity guarantee, as you might expect after what's happened.
All right. All I was going to say is, especially for those, once again, who traveled interstate to be here. Broken Hill, regional South Australia, I really appreciate you folks making the time to come here, but more importantly, I really thank you for doing what you do every single day within your sub-branches. It's a marvelous thing that we continue to do. We've got to learn to tell the story better. We've got to become more transparent with every step we take, and that's why we've got the videotape here. And lastly, well, not lastly, nominate qualified people for the board. Very important, incredibly important that we not leave here without somebody in the back of our mind going, I think I want to do that. Yes?
Just before you wrap up, Bronson, can I ask Cheryl to mention about the Constitution?
Oh, snap. I've even got it written right here. My apologies.
Sorry?
No, I got to do the whole saying goodbye to again.
Yes, we've undergone a process. Actually, it commenced, I think it was about the end of 2016 or something like that. There was actually Rick Harley, Rod Murray, myself, Corey Starkey and Julia Lango went and to review the Constitution on the outcome of the National Constitution, which they paid an absolute fortune for and is absolutely a dog state. But so we didn't want ours, we wanted it up to date and modernised and all the rest of it. So it's got down to Rod and I continuing because the others have gone. And we've worked hard on it. We've had a solicitor, we've got board approval to get a solicitor to get legal opinion on it. And that has come through, and now we have a constitution. I've given it to our board, and our chairman of our board said that means nothing to us. You send this out to the membership, they'll rip you apart. And they will. Well, we knew that. We know that. Because half the stuff that's in it does not need to be in it, has never needed to be in it. It goes into the bylaws and your model rules. So that's the next thing that we're working on. So there is a new constitution. It's ready to come out to the sub-branches. However, it won't until we're that close with the model rules that you can see where it's gone from the constitution into the bylaws and the model rules. We hope to have that by the annual sub-branch conference, where we will have probably on the 7th of July call an extraordinary sub-branch conference in the morning to pass the bylaws, the constitution bylaws and model rules. But that depends on the time frame that we can get it out. There's only 2 of us working on it now, and we're volunteers, so we're doing the best that we can. So that's where that is at this stage. The other thing, sorry.
Cheryl, that'll come out to us and then we can submit.
Yes, you can submit your comments and everything, and I'm dreading it.
Yeah.
Sorry, but yeah, no, that's your right. That's we've got to work together. Yes, Rod.
Look, I just want to throw something out there for all. Seeing we've got a load of presidents here at the moment. But one of the biggest problems we face, and I keep on hearing this all the time, is about suspending people under either the liquor licensing act or the constitution or the model rules per se. It's very convoluted in the model rules. I have a personal feel about this, that perhaps a president should have the ability to suspend a member for 7 days for poor behaviour, right? Anything with regards to poor behaviour and bringing the RSL into dispute. Do any of you think that is a problem in the new model rules? Or do you think it's a good idea because you don't then have to go through the convoluted process of either the Liquor Licensing Act or the current situation with regards to has to go to committee meeting, etc. and all that sort of thing?
Well, why don't we put that out there? Why don't we put that out there when we do the amendment, and let's say we send the bylaws and the model rules out to the sub-branches and say, okay, one of those points being what you've just raised,
Well,
Roy.
if they say yes now, I'll put it in the model rules.
There is a problem with that, a legislative issue.
That's right.
And that is that if you want to walk away from any part of the model rules, it's got to be approved by the Commissioner. So you can, if you just want to adopt the model rules, snap, bingo, you're done, right? But if you want to change anything in it, it has to be approved by the Commissioner before it becomes valid.
That's right.
So if you wander too far away from the model rules, the Commissioner is likely to say no. That's my experience of this.
So that's where we're at the moment, but it will come out to the sub-branches, and like I said, I'm dreading the response because I'll be lots of candles because I won't be able to afford the electricity bill for the midnight oil. Okay, finishing off on that, the other thing is we have our elections coming up. Now hopefully we'll go out to all the sub-branches today, because in the Constitution and the bylaws, model rules, there's a passage that states, and we just touched on it before, that each sub-branch will be by the AGM once it had the AGM within 30 days at this stage, and I think we're actually that's going to change. One of the things that's going to change, provide to the state branch their audited financial statement. Now I have a list of the sub-branches, and there are some sub-branches that have never provided a financial statement, audited financial statement, and I have had sub-branches who haven't put any in for the last few years. I've got a lot quite a few for this year, 2017, bearing in mind that some of the sub-branch AGMs don't happen until after the annual sub-branch conference, so in all fairness to them, they can't get their audited financial statements into us prior to that. So if there's 2016 financial statements in, we can accept that. If the sub-branches have not had their audited financial statements in up until 2016, they don't have an entitlement to vote at our annual sub-branch conference. Now I have a list of all those. It's never been enforced before, or it's going to be now. The same as the letters for those sub-branches, the 3 sub-branches that were in default of their capitations. We're on to it now. We need the money. But no, we're chasing them up now, so...
It is a little bit about the money, but it's more about the transparency.
Transparency. You want it? Well, you need to give it to us too. So, it'll be individual letters that'll be coming out. We have the exact dates and what we've received and what we haven't received. So if it's not in on time, we're giving it till the 9th of March. If it's not in after that, the letters will go out, and if you don't come in with your audited statement, those who haven't complied, well, you don't have a right to vote at our annual sub-branch conference.
All right. Once again, thank you very much for your time. Thanks for all those who helped setting up, and may God bless you and the lady. Thank you.